Greetings goers of YouTube, just call me Dr. Storm. This is my second video covering the animated series Hazbin Hotel, where I talk about episodes 5 through 8. I recommend watching my first video covering episodes 1 through 4 first before viewing this one if you haven't already, link in the description below. But if you've already seen my first video, or if you just don't care to watch it before this, which is also fine I guess, let's just jump straight into it. Episode 5, Dad Beat Dad, begins with Charlie trying to piece together why the hotel hasn't been working, even stating that the extermination is now only a couple of months away. Which would imply that from the first episode until now, huge gaps of time have been skipped that we could have been spending to explore more about our main characters. For a show about the Princes of Hell using a hotel to try and rehabilitate sinners and send them towards heaven, it really doesn't like to show how she goes about doing this, nor does it really like to challenge her executing this idea outside of other characters simply just not believing in it. Vaggie convinces Charlie to contact her father, whom Charlie hasn't really seen or talked to much for many years due to him and her mother getting a divorce. And Charlie gets hopes that her dad may be able to get her a meeting with Heaven so that she could get more support from the hotel from their end. And it's here that we finally meet one of the most anticipated characters of the show, the King of Hell and Sin of Pride himself, Lucifer Morningstar. Though I honestly can't say I'm all that big a fan of him in this show. I have no problem with Lucifer being a bit more goofy and eccentric. In fact, I'd say I found him more funny than annoying as a whole in the episode, though just barely. But there's not really enough about him that's sinister or commanding to match the environment he rules over, despite the fact that the pilot suggested he was more like that as opposed to Charlie. In fact, we don't really see what Lucifer does to rule over hell very much in this show. In episode 1, he passes off his meeting with the angels to Charlie, and in this episode, he doesn't really give any orders, doesn't interact with his own subjects much outside of Alistair, shows no investment in his kingdom to the point where he doesn't watch the news and doesn't even know who Alistair is, and he doesn't really display any powerful or impressive feats against other demons that suggest he's someone you don't want to mess with. He honestly just kind of sucks in retrospect. I would have preferred something more along the lines of Hades from the Disney adaptation of Hercules for Lucifer. He's funny, but he's still very much evil, vain, and can intimidate the other characters around him. But no, in this show, he's basically just a short, wacky top hat man who makes rubber ducks and whose daughter doesn't even call him on a regular basis. Lucifer agrees to see the hotel in person as it means that Charlie is essentially inviting him over, with Alistair incredibly irritated by his presence for some reason once he arrives. In fact, Alistair is so irritated by Lucifer, which especially isn't helped by the aforementioned fact that Lucifer has never heard of him, that he basically gets into a pissing contest with him. Alistair pretends to show faith in Charlie's cause and be proud of her to make Lucifer jealous, despite making it incredibly clear to her in both the pilot and in episode 1 that he doesn't believe in the cause, and even directly says "fuck you" to Lucifer, being the first time Alistair has really cursed in the series, which surprised even me at the time. The pissing match continues into the musical number Hell's Greatest Dad, where Alistair and Lucifer battle for Charlie's affection and try to one-up each other as the better father figure for Charlie. Which just seems like an odd thing to do when Lucifer just got here and when we haven't really seen Alistair and Charlie interact much through the series thus far. In fact, at this point, Vaggie has interacted significantly more with Alistair than Charlie has. The song at least does have pretty fun visuals though, clearly taking inspiration from The Genie's Antics and Friend Like Me from Aladdin. Unfortunately, the song, and thus the episode, are then hijacked by Mimsy, a loud, attention-seeking singer and club owner who is also a friend of Alistair's. With how much time the episode takes to show off and introduce Mimsy to the others, the episode feels like it comes to a halt solely for a character that loses all relevancy after this episode. Once Mimsy settles down, she starts talking to Angel Dust and Serpentius about Alistair, and it becomes clear that this character only exists to make this episode that should be about the relationship between Charlie and her dad an Alistair episode where he does awesome shit and where we learn more mysterious things about him so that YouTubers can make theory and speculation videos on the show. She even retells the same story about Alistair, albeit with slightly more details that Vaggie told Angel in the pilot, that being he seemingly came out of nowhere and toppled dozens of other overlords overnight. It really is something that even halfway through the entire series thus far, those of us who actually watched the pilot for free on YouTube are still being punished for the sake of people who chose not to watch it before getting into the official series on Amazon Prime. As Charlie continues to show Lucifer around, we get an interaction between Husk and Alistair, the first between these characters so far in the official series despite their relationship. Husk reminds Alistair that Mimsy only shows up when she's in trouble and that Alistair himself is also on someone else's leash, to which Alistair threatens Husk's life over. We get back to Charlie, who asks Lucifer what he thinks of the hotel. Lucifer ashamedly tells Charlie that their people are horrible and can't be redeemed, and that he doesn't think heaven will listen to her like how they didn't listen to him. You know, when he literally brought evil to Earth by having Eve eat the forbidden fruit. So yeah, Lucifer, the sin of pride, is not proud of his own domain. Let that sink in for a bit. Their conversation is then cut short by some mobsters who are trying to break into the hotel to get to Mimsy. As such, Alistair assumes his full demon form and starts slaughtering all of the mobsters. What follows is a bizarre moment between Charlie and Lucifer. Lucifer uses this to say, see, look how violent and horrible our people are, even though Alistair isn't a guest at the hotel and is not a demon looking to rehabilitate like Angel Dust or Serpentius are. Charlie then rebuts this by saying he's still defending the hotel, despite the fact that Alistair is mostly doing this to save Mimsy and to assert his dominance as an overlord. In fact, now that I think about it, every time the hotel has actually been attacked thus far, it's been because of Alistair in some way, including this instance. And Charlie then says, how come he can believe in me but my own father can't? Except Alistair has made it very clear to you, Charlie, that he doesn't believe in your cause, which honestly makes you look really stupid in this episode, especially when we also consider how much you were eating up Alistair's schlock in the musical number earlier. Boy, I sure am glad Alistair bullshit was shoehorned into this episode so that this is how we get conflict between our characters and not a more natural method that allows us to explore their relationship and history more. We admittedly do get a flashback of Charlie as a kid with Lucifer in the song More Than Anything, where Lucifer shows Charlie visions of his dreams, only for Charlie's mother to come and take her away from him, supposedly due to the aforementioned divorce, though we unfortunately don't get much more history of exactly why they never spent much time together beyond that. Through the song, Charlie explains to Lucifer that sharing his dreams with her was what inspired her to carry out her own dream of rehabilitating sinners, and the two express how they're happy that they are finally able to have each other in their own lives again, with Lucifer telling Charlie he can get her a meeting with heaven after the number is over. This moment is nice in isolation, but I can't help but feel dissatisfied with it when looking at it from a greater context. At the beginning of the episode, Charlie expresses resentment towards Lucifer for letting the exterminations happen, and Lucifer, despite clearly caring about his daughter, couldn't even be fucked to call Charlie for anything that wasn't about business or even watch the news broadcast where Charlie pitched the hotel from the pilot. Yet, by the end of this exact same episode, we're now at a complete reconciliation between the two within a 23-minute time span and with so much other filler in between, making it feel like we skipped a lot of steps towards this outcome. Oh, right, also, before the song began, Alistair told Mimsy to fuck off if she wasn't going to stay at the hotel to rehabilitate, and so she did. Thank fucking God. Once Lucifer leaves, Charlie tells Vaggie to prepare to go on a trip to heaven with her, which she is noticeably not very thrilled with, and the episode ends. Seeing how good episode 4 was, it's quite disappointing that we've gone straight back to rush unfocused episodes starting with this one, especially when a character as important as Lucifer was introduced here. Episode 6, Welcome to Heaven, begins with Charlie and Vaggie about to leave for, well, heaven, with Vaggie clearly anxious about going up there. We also see Angel arrive back to the hotel from a long day working for Valentino, only for Cherry Bomb, his friend whom he fought with against Serpentius in the pilot, to arrive at the hotel to see him. And she's Australian now, for some reason.
Hey, thanks for the backup, Angie.
You kidding? This is the best action I've seen in ages.
Where you been anyway? I thought you up and died or some shit.
What up, hoes? Cherry Bomb?
Angie, you bitch. Figured we could tear shit up like old times.
Before leaving for heaven via a portal, Charlie gives Cherry Bomb some cash so she can take Angel and the rest of the hotel residents out for a fun night. Seems questionable for Charlie to entrust Angel and everyone else to Cherry Bomb, especially considering Angel's helping Cherry Bomb in a turf war in the pilot only helped make her look like a laughingstock on the news. But this is honestly one of the episode's lesser problems in terms of logic, unfortunately enough. Vaggie and Charlie, upon their arrival to the gates of heaven, are greeted by St. Peter, the head seraphim, Sarah, and Emily, who is Sarah's sister? They never formally stated in the episode. St. Peter then begins the number Welcome to Heaven, showing off how awesome and cool heaven is. and I can't help but feel that the show didn't really care to put much thought into what heaven was like. The song is only 70 seconds in length as opposed to Happy Day in Hell from episode 1 that was over 3 minutes long and actually let us witness many of Hell's residents in their daily lives. Meanwhile, we don't really explore much of heaven or its residents in this sequence, and only Sarah, St. Peter, and Emily have prominent singing lines. The number just feels lazy and done out of obligation so that we meet our quota of 2 songs per episode, and the fact that the name of the song is just the name of the episode also doesn't help stop me from thinking that either. Adam and his Lieutenant Lute, who we saw accompanying him in episode 1, coincidentally pass by Charlie and Vaggie being shown around, and Lute has to remind Adam that the exterminations are meant to be kept a secret from the general public in heaven, which is then reconfirmed by Sarah, who suddenly appears before them away from Charlie, Vaggie, and Emily. So not only is it a revelation all of a sudden after tens of thousands of years that demons can kill angels, but select individuals in heaven have been able to keep the exterminations going on entirely in secret from the general populace of heaven up until this point, even with someone like Adam leading the extermination squad who has to be reminded to keep that shit on the down low, and even with individuals like Lute wearing their extermination garb, complete with creepy mask and bloodstains, out in the open in front of all the other angels. What exactly are the exterminator uniforms to those who aren't in the know about the exterminations anyway? While Charlie leaves to go spend time with Emily at a zoo, off-screen, Adam and Lute meet with Vaggie and reveal that they recognize her as not only an angel, but as one of Adam's best exterminators back in the day. We then witness Vaggie's backstory before the events of the show in a flashback to the extermination she got fired in. For some reason, she takes her mask off, unlike all the other exterminators who keep theirs on, corners a demon child, hesitates to kill them, and tells them to flee. Lute comes out of nowhere and punishes her for this by removing her eye and cutting off her wings. Adam and Lute leave her for dead, and after the extermination is over, Charlie finds Vaggie, mends her wounded eye socket, and the two instantly fall in love. If you think I rushed by all that too fast, that's pretty much how fast everything happens in the flashback. You know the pacing of your show is absolutely fucked and that you can't prioritize for shit when a major backstory for one of your main characters and a big plot reveal is just half-assedly breezed past, and yet you spend so much time in a previous episode making us get to know this obnoxious side character who only exists to make another one of your characters look cool and dump exposition on them. Because of how rushed Vaggie's flashback is, it seriously has me questioning more logic of this show, unfortunately. As far as we know, the exterminators kill indiscriminately and don't have to go for specific targets. Yet Vaggie, one of Adam's best he's still fond of even today, is essentially fired and punished to the point she can't work for him ever again, all because she didn't kill one random demon child Lute could have easily just killed in the time it took her to punish Vaggie for letting him go. With punishments this extreme, I find it even more unlikely that no dead angels were found after exterminations from the creation of Hell up until the present. Since Vaggie had never told Charlie that she was an angel, Adam uses this as blackmail to get Vaggie to help throw the case that sinners can be redeemed. At the meeting, which has Adam facing off against Charlie with Sarah and Emily overseeing things, Adam declares that a soul is worthy of heaven so long as they be selfless, don't steal, and stick it to the man, which Sarah approves since Adam was the first human who got into heaven. Charlie then presents Angel as an example of someone who is capable of that, and the entire court observes him and the others on their night out through their omniscient ball thing. It can conjure up whatever imagery the plot demands it to. Cherry coaxes Angel into drinking, much to Husk's disappointment as well as to the Angels. Vaggie leaves to go to the bathroom once Adam challenges her to speak up, leaving Charlie to plead with the Angels on her own to keep watching, to which they agree. Charlie exclaims "fuck yes" enthusiastically, which surprises Emily and makes Sarah scowl at her, which doesn't really make all that much sense once you realize Adam, one of their own, has been regularly using foul language throughout this entire court case, yet never received the same response for it. As the court continues watching, we see Angel Dust trying to watch after Nifty, who is running amok the club and taking other people's shit, and he prevents her from stealing. Valentino, coincidentally enough, is at the club too, and Nifty gets close to him, which also then leads Angel to get close to him as well. Valentino shows interest in having Nifty be a part of his line of work, which leads to Angel Dust to stand up to Valentino for once, reminding him that their contract states that Valentino can't control Angel outside of work, only in the studio. As such, Valentino promises to make the next day of work even harder on Angel Dust after hitting him. Once Valentino leaves, Angel says that what he did felt good and doesn't regret it, with Husk commending him for his bravery. While I do like these moments with Angel in the club and him showing growth from being at the hotel, it still feels a bit unearned here. While yes, we did see him start to change in episode 4, it was just a start for him to finally get on a solid path of redemption. There's still a lot of things we didn't see in between then and now, and we don't really get to see his demeanor towards the rest of the hotel crew improve over time. Also, there was a recurring joke throughout these club scenes where Sir Pentious kept doing things to hit on Cherry Bomb, like buying her drinks, only to then say that he was doing it for everybody to hide his true intentions. And it ends with him saying he's having sex with everybody in the club, leading to him getting dragged into a gangbang. While I do agree with others that this joke where a character gets essayed does conflict with subjects of SA, seen as horrible in episode 4, I still laughed at the joke at the time and found it funny in the moment. We get back to Charlie, who states that Angel did everything on Adam's list, only for Sarah to say that this isn't sufficient enough proof to say that a sinner can get into heaven. It's also stated here that the angels don't know what gets people into heaven and that souls just kind of show up there. Really? The angels, who are practically immortal and have an omniscient way of viewing things with this weird-ass orb, don't know what gets people into heaven after tens of thousands of years? This is just ludicrous world building. Emily interjects and says that she agrees with Charlie that this is proof sinners can be redeemed by starting the number you didn't know. Quite a lot happens in just this 3-minute musical sequence. Adam accidentally reveals the existence of the exterminations in front of Emily and other angels not in the know. Sarah tells Emily that she let the exterminations happen for the greater good, only for Emily to defy against her with Charlie and call heaven out for being hypocrites. And Adam reveals to Charlie that Vaggie in fact used to be an angel. Some of these moments are cool in isolation, like Charlie and Emily using the leitmotif of hell is forever to stand up to heaven, but as you may have guessed, they start falling apart with greater context. So if Sarah didn't want Emily especially to know about the exterminations, why did she bring her to a court case where they were very much relevant? Also, how the flying fuck did Charlie not once bring up the exterminations at any point she was in heaven, including in this case? We got no scene where Sarah told her not to mention them to anyone, and she just doesn't anyway, so that Adam is the one who fucks up and spills the beans. We also don't know much about Emily or Sarah since we just met them at the beginning of the episode, and they don't really have much more screen time after this episode. As a result, Emily siding with Charlie doesn't feel all that impactful, and we don't really get that much history behind the reasoning of the exterminations by the end of the season to truly determine if Sarah and Heaven are justified in their methods and actions. In fact, the lines,
If hell is forever, then heaven must be a lie.
Emily.
If angels can do whatever and remain in the sky, the rules are shades of gray when you don't do as you say, when you make the wretched suffer just to kill them again,
are kind of just proven untrue by Season 1, Episode 4 of Hell of a Boss, as the cherubs in that episode are denied entry to heaven by their peers ever again after their actions led to the death of a human. So clearly there are rules in place the denizens of heaven do have to abide by. Hell, we saw Vaggie demoted from being an angel in this very episode. She clearly didn't do whatever and remain in the sky. They clearly want to show heaven is corrupt, but they can't seem to find a consistent way to show how it is corrupt. And last but not least, they made Vaggie being an angel seem like the big final zinger, even though they outright told this to us in an earlier scene and made it especially hard to take seriously with the corny-ass sting that played when it zoomed in on Charlie's shocked face.
Why hide the fact that you're an angel just like us?
Like, seriously, if a cartoon kid lion making this face can be taken more seriously, you fucked up somewhere. Sarah declares that there is no substantial proof a sinner can be redeemed, and sends Charlie and Vaggie back to hell as Adam threatens to come for the hotel first at the start of the next extermination. Court is adjourned, and Emily tells Sarah she's disgusted by the fact that the exterminators are killing thousands of innocent human souls on a yearly basis. Even though quite a lot of these souls probably did fuck up hugely in life and are shitty people to have gotten there, and the mannerisms and behavior of Hell's denizens we see in the show seems to line up with that thinking. In fact, now that I think about it, Hell is supposed to be a place that torments sinners for their deeds in life. So if you kill sinners in Hell, aren't you just relieving them of said torment? We see people like Angel who clearly hate the positions they're in episode 4 to the point where they're basically destroying themselves, so wouldn't there be a sizable portion of Hell that would be welcoming the exterminations to end their lives? That would actually be an interesting concept to explore, but because the world building is fucked, we don't get to see that. Sarah tells Emily that she had to do it because Hell was uprising and she doesn't want her to fall like how Lucifer did. And the episode ends, with these ideas never really being explored for the rest of the season. While I did like watching Angel and the others hanging out in the club, the episode was just kind of bad otherwise. Heaven and its lore just don't feel developed enough for them to feel like any true antagonists were meant to strongly be against, and the shit with Vaggie is just embarrassingly rushed. Overall, just seems pretty half-baked. Episode 7, Hello Rosie, begins with the hotel crew discussing how they now know Vaggie is an angel too, and talk about how Charlie is moping in her room, which leads to Alistair approaching her and mocking her in her situation. Charlie calls out Alistair for him being sadistic and laughing at hers and the others' failure the whole time. Kind of an odd interaction for these two to be having, considering that in the last episode Alistair appeared in, Charlie was only singing praises of him and falling for his shit he put on to make Lucifer jealous. Charlie even mopes about how she's worse than the worst overlord in hell since she gave people false hope, and the show tries to make it seem like she failed horribly during the first half of this episode, when the events that got her here were largely out of her hands. Carmilla Carmine killing the angel was what caused the next extermination to happen 6 months earlier, and Sarah clearly wasn't going to let her win her case regardless, as seen in the last episode, for reasons Charlie doesn't fully understand. This is the biggest problem with Charlie as a main character for me. The show doesn't really feel like it's about her own efforts to redeem sinners or said efforts' impact on others. We see her performing kindergarten level exercises in episodes 2 and 3 to rehabilitate Angel and Penchus and bring everyone in the hotel closer together, but that's honestly kind of it. The show never really properly makes her reassess her methods or shows what exactly she could have done better as a result. Sure, maybe Angel did have some growth from the beginning of the series up until now, but that was mostly Husk that did it for him, not Charlie. And even if we tried to buy her planting false hope in others, Angel, Penchus, and the staff were never really all that gung-ho about being redeemed, and we never really saw many scenes of them expressing their own hopes for it or seeing those hopes crumble. So to see her and the other characters label her as a fuck-up here just doesn't really make that much sense to me. Alistair then tells Charlie he knows information that could help her fight the angels, that being that Carmilla killed one. And Alistair gives her this information in exchange for Charlie owing him a favor that doesn't involve her killing anyone, much to Vaggie's dismay at her making a formal deal with him. Charlie tells Vaggie to go to Carmilla and get the information out of her, while she and Alistair go to rally forces in Cannibal Town. Charlie does act pissy towards Vaggie here, expressing disdain for Vaggie hiding that she was an angel, but these brief interactions before the two characters split for the episode are all we get for direct drama between them until they reconcile, making it even harder for us to care about Vaggie, let alone her relationship with Charlie, than we already did. Charlie and Alistair go to Cannibal Town, with Charlie ranting to Alistair about how she thinks it ridiculous Vaggie didn't tell her after all the years they were together along the way, and we meet yet another one of Alistair's friends who takes up a considerable amount of a 23-minute runtime, Rosie, who was also sitting next to him in the Overlord meeting from episode 3. Charlie asks Rosie for the Cannibal Town residents' help in fighting the angels, with them getting to feast on the angels' corpses as further incentive, and she agrees. But Charlie has to give a speech herself to rally them all, which initially fails because of one old woman heckling her. Charlie talks with Rosie after this initial speech about her troubles with Vaggie, and Rosie convinces her not to be mad at Vaggie anymore by telling her that Vaggie probably stuck with Charlie for all these years because she wanted to redeem herself for killing Charlie's people every year. And Charlie is ultimately trying to accomplish redemption in others after all. This talk is nice, but it feels pretty cheap for a brand new character to resolve Charlie's beef with Vaggie rather than having Charlie and Vaggie talk it out. Charlie gives rallying Cannibal Town another try with the musical number ready for this time being successful. Yeah, much like with how it starts with Starry in episode 2, I don't really have much commentary on this song. It's just the battle cry song before the final battle, which doesn't even involve most of our main cast, unfortunately. While Charlie and Alistair are busy with all that, Vaggie confronts Carmilla, who somehow needs convincing for telling Vaggie how to kill angels. Even though she is the reason the extermination is even happening now, and even though she should know how the exterminations work to the point where the angels will obviously come for her and the rest of hell next, even if the hotel is being targeted first, which Vaggie reminds her of. Carmilla enters combat to train Vaggie and reveals to her that she knows Vaggie used to be an exorcist because the X over her eye is a dead giveaway, as the other exorcists have it on their helmets as well. A character who just met Vaggie was able to figure her out right away from this obvious fact, but not Vaggie's own girlfriend of several years who was heavily invested in the exterminations. This writing is a joke. Carmilla then reveals that the way in which to kill angels is by using angelic weapons.
Stupid girl, are you really so dense you don't realize you're holding the answer?
Angelic weapons? It's that simple? How has no one else figured this out?
like you has no place in heaven.
Angelic weapons? It's that simple? How has no one else figured this out?
I am now going to go on an extensive rant about this one point because it is completely nonsensical in so many ways. Hell of a Boss has shown that demonkind can access angelic weapons by some unexplained means, and Carmilla lends a shit ton of them to the hotel by the end of the episode. And you're seriously telling me that in the tens of thousands of years heaven and hell have existed, where these exterminations have been happening on an annual basis, at no point did a single resident of hell ever try using an angelic weapon on an angel to see what would happen. Vaggie even explicitly asks how no one else has figured this out yet, to which Carmilla simply replies,
Angelic steel isn't common, and those who have it aren't exactly rushing off to test it against exorcists.
oh, so angelic weapons are rare and you should only use them for important business? Say, you know what sounds pretty important to me? Actually testing if the beings that fly down to slaughter you en masse on a regular basis can actually be fucking killed by their own weapons. It's like if Master Chief picked up a Covenant weapon and expected it to not damage any Covenant soldiers just because the guns were made by them, and thus just doesn't even bother trying to fire them against the Covenant. In fact, we get a flashback of Carmilla defending her daughters and see a bunch of spears lodged into dead demons unattended for anyone to take. I guess no demon just ever decided to take one of those for themselves and defend themselves against the rest of the exterminators. Oh, and you know what makes this even more fucking insane? The character being told this, who doesn't know how to kill angels, is a motherfucking angel. And not just any angel, but one who lost her eye and her wings to the weapon of another angel and lost so much blood to the point where she nearly died and had to have her wounds tended to. So not only does Vaggie look completely fucking brain dead so that the plot can happen the way it does, but just like how angels don't know how people arrive in heaven, they also apparently don't know that weapons they designed for killing can also be used to kill them. For tens of thousands of years, no accident has apparently ever happened that resulted in an angel dying to an angelic weapon, and angels have apparently never sparred against one another for practice, because that would require them to either use real weapons that would obviously harm themselves, or training weapons that they wouldn't need if they didn't think their own weapons could fucking kill them. Adam, the leader of the Exorcists, even expresses surprise that it was their own weapons that could kill them in the next episode.
That's how they can kill us? With our own weapons? Fucking weak, dude!
Which doesn't even make sense for him because one, he was literally fucking there when Lute was maiming Vaggie, and two, in the flashback where Carmilla was defending her daughters, we saw that she got cornered by 5 angels yet only killed 1. Meaning that the other 4 angels just fucked off instead of actually trying to fight her and just didn't tell their leader who the exact demon was that was able to kill one of their own so that she would be a priority in the next extermination, and just didn't even tell him how one of their own was killed, which they didn't even know was possible for thousands of fucking years until it happened. This is stupid. This is entirely fucking stupid. It is genuinely some of the shittiest fucking world building I have ever seen in any modern show, and I have no goddamn clue how the flying fuck any of this got through to the final draft. Sorry folks, I'm done letting off steam. Where were we? Oh yeah. Carmilla sings Out for Love to inspire Vaggie by telling her to fight for Charlie while they continue training, and Vaggie just suddenly grows her wings back by the end. Yay. Charlie and Vaggie then meet back at the hotel with their newly acquired assets and are now good. Not by talking through things themselves, but by having other characters talk to them while they were apart. Very satisfying writing, VisiPop, and very shitty episode that once again split our characters up to prevent them from interacting with one another. Episode 8, The Show Must Go On, and the finale of Season 1, begins with Vox watching the hotel crew prepare for the extermination and expressing excitement for Alistair potentially dying in the upcoming battle. Oh, what's that? You forgot Vox was even a character because he pretty much only appeared in Episode 2 before this, and the only important thing he did in the show was give Penchus a reason to be at the hotel? Well, I can't say I blame you there. Also, spoiler alert, he basically does nothing in this episode too, aside from commenting on the battle as it happens. And not even on TV or to the public of hell. Charlie gives everyone a motivational speech before the battle the next day, and everyone lives it up like it's their last day. I can't say I feel much here, given how little time we've had to see our characters grow and bond with one another, but Husk and Angel's interactions are always nice to see, and it was cute to see Alistair play with Nifty. The whole Penchus having a crush on Cherry Bomb thing is still just kind of weird though. It came out of nowhere even if you've actually seen the pilot. Vaggie finds Charlie alone, and the two sing a reprise of More Than Anything, this time making it a duet between lovers rather than between father and daughter, and they kiss. With how poorly done and rushed everything with Vaggie has been throughout this entire show, including this song which doesn't even reach a minute in length, I really just can't feel anything here. It's honestly incredible how Vaggie and Charlie have more chemistry in the pilot than they do throughout the entirety of this first season of the official show. We then cut to the next day with Adam giving a pep speech to his exterminators and the final battle about to begin, with the hotel crew all geared up with angelic weapons and artillery. As the angels fly down to attack the hotel, Alistair puts up a giant shield over the place to trap the ones who made it down in to get slaughtered, while the rest fly into the shield and are implied to die upon impact with blood splatters present. Meaning angels can apparently also die by hitting something with enough force, which has nothing to do with angelic weapons and could very easily have happened at any other point in the time before now. Yes, I understand this is just another problem with the world building, but I already had my huge rant earlier, and we're in the home stretch of the season. Adam, after a while, breaks the barrier, and he and Lute fly down themselves to deal with the hotel. Why he didn't do this immediately, well before the barrier got covered in Alistair tendrils wielding angelic weapons, is never really explained, and why the tendrils suddenly disappeared so that he could eventually do this is also never explained. Adam has a duel with Alistair, breaks his staff, which is seemingly a big source of Alistair's power, and gravely wounds him, forcing the Demon Lord to retreat. As such, Adam starts attacking everyone else with huge holy blasts from his fingertips. Pentious, upon seeing this, kisses Cherry Bomb before getting into his airship and charging Adam with a huge laser, only for Adam to vaporize him and his entire ship in a single blast, making his sacrifice amount to nothing. I didn't like this kind of sudden joke death for Polka Dot Man in the Suicide Squad, and I don't like it for Sir Pentious here either. This angers Charlie to the point where she goes full demon form, and her two flying goat pet things turn into huge dragons that she and Vaggie ride up to Adam and Lute, only for the dragons to get immediately bodied with at least one of them actually dying. Seriously, what the fuck was the point of these little pet characters again? They barely even appeared in the show. Charlie is left to fight Adam on the roof, while Vaggie is left to fight Lute in the lobby. Vaggie bests Lute by trapping her under some rubble from a collapse she caused, refuses to kill her so that Lute is spited with mercy, and she leaves to help Charlie out on the roof, only for Lute to sacrifice her own arm just to break free and continue fighting Vaggie on the roof so that Vaggie can't help Charlie. The first real victory that Vaggie really has in the show, and you can't even really make it feel like a victory for her because she just keeps fighting Lute until the battle ends and can't help out in any other way because of that. Adam is about to kill Charlie when suddenly Lucifer comes out of nowhere to save her and starts dueling Adam himself. Why he wasn't here earlier and is only showing up now, I honestly couldn't tell you. Lucifer, despite being shown to have the ability to summon portals in episode 5, doesn't use that here for some reason and just turns into a bunch of different animals when fighting with Adam and bragging about how he fucked his wives. Yeah, I still wish Lucifer had more of a threat level in him in the show. During the scuffle, Adam splits the hotel in half, causing Charlie to fall, but Lucifer is able to catch and save her before she hits the ground. Adam, who has been established to have the ability to fire quick, powerful holy blasts from his fingertips earlier, decides to then charge Lucifer and Charlie head-on for some reason. And Charlie grows Velvet Crow's Demon Claw from Tales of Berseria to block Adam's incoming melee attack so that Lucifer can then bitch slap him into the ground and pummel him to near death. Adam gets up and starts angrily yelling about how they should be respecting him since he was the first ever human, and Nifty sneaks up and stabs him to death from behind. Lute, torn by Adam's death, then leaves with the rest of the exterminators, and the events of the battle are then told on the news in Hell. As Charlie stares at the hotel remains and mourns Pentious' death, Lucifer lifts her spirits into the final song of the season, simply known as Finale. The rest of the hotel crew join in on the song, and throughout, they rebuild the hotel to be better than it was before. During the song, we also see the V celebrating Alistair's supposed disappearance, even though he just appears alongside everyone else at the end of the song like nothing happened anyway. And Alistair, alone and near death, even expresses fear for the first time in the show as he sings about how he's more determined than ever before to get off the leash Husk alluded to in episode 5. While Alistair's eyes are very much worried during the sequence, he still retains the smile he always wears, as like he says to Charlie in the previous episode at one point, a smile ensures that you are always in control of the situation. We get 2 more quick scenes after the musical number ends to leave hooked for the next season. The first being Sir Pentious suddenly appearing as an angel in heaven, much to Sarah's utter shock and Emily's excitement that sinners can in fact be redeemed and sent to heaven. The second scene consists of Lute walking up to a woman on the beach in heaven, telling her that she's in charge of the extermination squad now that Adam is dead, and she threatens the woman to go down to hell and stop Charlie's operation if she wants to remain in heaven, with the woman being revealed to be Charlie's own mother, Lilith. And thus the episode ends. While it tried to seem grand as a season finale, it was honestly difficult for anything to feel too impactful, as it was ultimately big payoff for little build-up as a whole. With how little we saw of the hotel's operations and its characters just chilling and interacting with one another, the fate of the hotel just didn't feel all that important to care about, especially with how few people are actually residing within it. Also, some of the decisions for what took place during the battle were pretty bizarre. And so ends the first season of Hazbin Hotel, and I must admit, after 4 years since the pilot first debuted, I'm quite disappointed with this as the result. I know I'm sounding like a broken record by saying this, but the show's pacing is its biggest problem. It moves too fast and doesn't have much time to get us invested in the premise or characters, especially when it's seemingly trying to shove 2 to 3 seasons of television into an 8-episode season consisting of 23-minute-long episodes. With how much Season 1 was trying to do, it either needed more or longer episodes, or some stuff simply just had to be cut or moved to future seasons. Because nearly everything came out negatively impacted as a whole in terms of writing. Much like how Hell of a Boss pretty much neglected the premise of demon hitmen killing people for sinners, Hazbin Hotel seemed to stop being concerned with its own premise about a hotel rehabilitating sinners in hell along the way, in favor of introducing and showcasing fun new characters every episode, and trying to make this whole heaven versus hell conflict with lore and revelations that are just nonsensical to be taking place at this point in time between entities that have been around since creation itself. Vivzipop has also gone on record saying that Hell of a Boss is more focused on the male characters, while Hazbin is more focused on its female characters. But Angel Dust and Alistair clearly being her favorite children alone prove this idea is bullshit. The episode focusing on Angel is the best episode in the entire series thus far, and feels like it actually focuses on him the whole time, when other episodes lose focus with their plots fairly easily. And Alistair is always shown off as being incredibly OP, and as someone who can rival even Lucifer himself in some capacity, with allies that exist to prop him up and make him full of mystery to entice the audience to want to learn more about him. Husk's chemistry and relationship with Angel is also nice to see, and makes me only want to see the two interact more with one another. Serpentius grew on me throughout the show and had some genuinely funny jokes here and there. Lucifer also had some funny moments and did show some kind of growth into actually being there for his daughter when she needed him again. Valentino served as a fairly intimidating antagonistic force towards Angel Dust. And even Vox and Adam, who I ragged on for swearing too much in my first video, and Vox basically being easy to write out of the show as a whole, ended up being the most entertaining characters in the show with what they had, and had genuinely likable personalities despite technically being villain characters, though it was probably mostly due to their respective voice actors and their delivery. That's not to say there's all that much to a lot of these male characters I just mentioned, or that they don't have their own writing flaws, but when we look at the woman, oh boy, we're in trouble. Charlie feels like a fairly weak protagonist. Her ideals are never really challenged to the point where she really starts questioning her Sunday school methods of redemption, and she never starts asking questions about redemption such as, do I even know what these sinners were like when they were alive, or why do I think they did what they did to get into hell? Bad things just happen around her because of others' actions and motivations she can't really do much about for the most part, and she kind of just ends up getting carried through the show by other characters as a result. It is admittedly a bit endearing to see her cheery, more optimistic demeanor in contrast to her environments, but as the main character, we never really get to explore much about why she is the way she is. We knew she had dreams because her dad inspired her to dream, but that's really it. Next up is Vaggie, who I am fully convinced the showrunners just outright hate at this point. Between her rushed as hell backstory, rushed self-doubt arc in episode 3, lack of defining traits outside of being tough and being Charlie's girlfriend, and the fact that her only songs in the show are a shitty duet with a character she doesn't even know at the time, and a sloppy seconds reprise of an earlier song in the season, Vaggie was done the dirtiest out of anyone, and her voice actress really didn't help her either. Velvet was the third pillar in the V Trinity, but outside of Respectless, she has nothing. Especially when she lacks connections with the main characters like Vox and Valentino have. Sure, her actions technically lead to Alistair helping Charlie figure out how the angels can be killed, but Velvet just kind of disappears after that. We don't see her interact with Vox and Valentino very much, and I don't even think she has any lines in episode 8 despite watching everything with them. Carmilla Carmine is basically a walking MacGuffin for a problem she specifically made worse for everybody else. Yet for some reason, the show really tries to get you to love her by giving her not 1, not 2, but 3 different songs throughout the entirety of the first season. With one early on being this big emotional musical number in the 3rd episode of the series after we haven't even known her for like 10 minutes tops. Why should I care that Carmilla has the basic human trait of loving her daughters? Why should I like her after her actions basically fucked everybody else over, and she acted like a twat when someone asked for help with an extermination she should have known full well would eventually impact her too? Please give me a reason to actually like this Hollow Knight head-ass knife lady. It's nice that Sarah isn't just an evil angel and seems more nuanced than Adam, but we only get one episode with her, and as we begin to explore her nuances, the episode just ends. Emily also gets just as little screen time as Sarah, and while her being a counterpart to Charlie for Heaven seems like an interesting idea to have, being a super nice girl who wants to see the best in people, again, it never really gets explored much before the episode ends. Nifty and Cherry Bomb exist. I don't really have anything else to say about them as characters. I hope Mimsy dies an excruciating death in the next extermination. Rosie is okay for what she is, I guess. And Lute... okay, you know what? Fuck it. Lute, for what she is the best female character in the show by default. Entertaining when she's on screen, doesn't take shit from anyone, and honestly, I felt more chemistry between her and Adam than I did between Charlie and Vaggie by the end. Visipop does character writing far better than world building, but doing solid character writing requires you yourself to actually care about the characters you are writing for. And if you don't care about the character enough to give them time to shine meaningfully, then why should the audience care about the character either? Hazbin Hotel is a series with good production value. Like I said in my previous video, it has good animation, for the most part, good voice talent, for the most part, and good music, for the most part. It's pretty solid at selling itself to you at face value. The problem, unfortunately, comes with the substance being of lesser quality, and once you start applying thoughts to said substance. Fancy visuals and bombastic musical numbers can only do so much to hide bad writing, both for characters and for plot. Looking back at the pilot, I really just can't help but wonder what kind of show Hazbin would have become if it had kept being made on YouTube, or if it had swapped places with Hell of a Boss and the latter had been greenlit instead. While Hell of a Boss has its fair share of issues in its current environment, I honestly can't help but feel that had Hazbin continued on YouTube, with all the same people from the pilot being on board, that what we could have had instead would have been a hell of a lot better than the rush mess we currently have. Like or dislike the video depending on what you thought of it, share your thoughts in the comments down below, subscribe if you'd like to see more of my content, and have a good day or night.